And we're back to 40 Better on Draft podcast. It's crazy because I never really get a chance to see the four-person setup, so I think I got to do a little bit of adjusting. But I know segment two, as part two podcast, is going to be with the news. The co-host couldn't hear me, but they'll understand that it's going to be with the news. We're going to go around just real quick, update everyone on what they are drinking, and then Rob will start the news. I've got from a former brewery, meadery cidery called Cellarman's, a 6% Moscow Miel mead with fresh ginger and lime.
Is
Uh,
that
so
still is it still taste any good?
so I
How
reached
old is
out,
that?
It's about a minimum year and a half old. Reached out to the former owner, and he said that because it's a mead, obviously it's going to have a decent size shelf life, and to not worry. So I don't believe I'm going to die quite yet. Sorry to those who may have been wishing. But Nick, what are you drinking?
I finished the Night Swimmer Stout from Strong Cloud. Now I'm working on the Fudgy Kruger from Big Lake. So
All
what a
right.
name!
And
It's a great name.
I
Dan,
know.
Dan, what are you drinking?
Just re-upped on the vodka soda, keeping it going.
All
What vodka
right.
you drinking?
New Amsterdam,
New
close enough.
Amsterdam. Okay.
And finally, Robert.
All right, I'm still finishing the Bark Lord from Transient, but I've also opened another Michigan brewery's BBA Yezer from One Well, little tiny cans that they
It's like
have.
a 4-ounce can.
I mean, it's a decent. I mean, it turned out to be a decent pour. It's all right.
Nice.
All right, but we're going to go ahead and get into it. So first thing I'm going to get into in terms of the news, as brought to you by North Center Brewing at 410 North Center Road out in Northville, Michigan. Say hi to those guys and go get you some beer. Going to talk about the GABF, the Great American Beer Festival, which went virtual this past week or weekend. And they have, as usual, they have their little tally of medals that are handed out to their winners of the festival. A few came from Michigan, not as many as I think we would like, but it's been kind of small. So a couple breweries that got some medals. There are four that came for, or rather three silver medals. The Porter from Founders, along with their Oktoberfest. Grandma's Favorite Recipe from Silver Harbor out in St. Joseph for the fruit wheat beer category, and the 228 Triple from Stormcloud out
Which
in
was
Frankfurt for the
brought up by Michael Brower last week when we
Right.
were talking with Michael Brower over at Pigeon Hill. He mentioned 228, and that night is when they announced it. So
Right. And then two other medals, two bronze medals, the Berry Quite Contrary from Territorial out in Springfield for the American Style Fruit Beer category, and Perrin's No Rules from Perrin from Comstock winning in the Field Beer category, which I need to look up Field Beer because I'm not sure exactly what that category entails. But overall, the state is up from last year's tally, getting two more medals than what they did last year. But from a total of 272 medals, Michigan is only representing 2% of the winners. Since the GABF has kept records, Michigan has only hit double digits in medals twice, which was 10 medals both in 2010 and 2016. And it looks like, based on the list, I was trying to put it in Excel to really tally it, but I believe California is on top again with 63 medals overall. With this event always happening, as most people have referred to the medals that are being handed out by the Great American Beer Festival, which is out in Colorado. People have sometimes called this the Oscars of the beer world. With Michigan only having 6, is this something that we should really care about in terms of getting this low output of medals? And while we have over 370 active breweries and brew pubs in a state that has that many offerings, do you feel like we're not sending enough to the competition to warrant a bigger pot? Or is it that maybe we just, as a state, just feel like we're happy with our beer and we don't really care? I'm going to start with Ken on that one.
Honestly, it all depends on how many beers we sent, but in the same token, a lot of these tasting competitions, a lot of it is who's the judges. When you tasted the beer, what you tasted before, what you tasted after. Like there's a lot of variables that hurt breweries from coming in with the best beer, especially in really competitive heavy categories. New England IPA, double IPA, really anything with an IPA, or stout for that matter. So I think you're going to get a lot of breweries, which is fine, that are having less than par beers, doing better versus breweries that are having the best. I mean, these beers aren't bad, but when you're I mean, how many triples can you taste in a row before you could really tell the difference between the amount of triples that you're tasting?
That's a good point.
Same with mouth crashers that are like double IPAs. Like how many can you have before you say, is this the most true to style beer? So I think there's a lot of merit. If you produce a shitty beer, they'll know it's a shitty beer. But when you're getting to the nitty gritties of gold medal silver, like you're kind of just trying to pick out your personal favorite, and it all depends on who the judge is at that table picking out that favorite. So I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Okay, Nick,
Yeah,
how you
I'm
feel?
I'm sorry. I agree with Ken. I don't think it's really truly anything to worry about. I'm going to throw in COVID as maybe an excuse. I think the breweries in Michigan are a little bit more concerned about making sure that their business is running, and that way they can stay afloat as we kind of
I thought you
ride
were
through all of
saying that the,
this.
the taste testers have COVID, so they can't taste
No,
shit.
no, 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 no. Wasn't going there.
Okay.
I think this is probably the year that they worry. Hey, let's get through 2020 first before we worry about submitting beers to a festival that maybe not a lot of breweries were gonna submit. Now I would now
You
you
got to pay
did
for your submission
you
too.
got to pay for your submission now. I'm going to play devil's advocate against myself for a moment. Looking at the stats for this year, over 1,700 breweries submitted at least one beer in the competition.
That's
That's
1,700 out of over 7,000.
given the climate,
Yeah,
everyone trying to stay afloat while we ride through this pandemic. That's pretty darn good. I mean, you have almost 8,800 a little over 8,800 different beers submitted as part of this competition. And, I think that's actually pretty darn good given where we currently sit as a country right now. Everyone's trying to ride this thing out and stay afloat. And, but as a Michigander, we didn't win that many medals. You know what? I don't think that's a huge diss on Michigan, and I'm sure the judges do play a role in it too. Their personal preferences, their tastes. What? 377 different entries in the juicy IPA category.
Huge
How many?
shout out to Ren House, by the way. And
Oh yeah.
once you're done, Nick, I've got a very good take on this. You
Yeah.
guys aren't going to be happy.
Well, I'll hold that for you.
Go for it,
but
Dan. I got the mute
go
button.
for it.
You don't have to go ahead and mute me out. Just to throw out your stats here really quick. Last year, 2019, there were only 9,300 beers, so there wasn't that many of a difference. Only about 500, and there were 2,300 breweries. You guys aren't going to like this, but from what I see in Arizona, these breweries are trying to go out and win this. I have a feeling Michigan breweries have this notion that they're better than everyone, because I get that from the people that drink it. And they think they're good enough. They don't have to try to win this because they think they're the best. When there's a whole bunch of hungry dogs out there doing things better and making much more drinkable and enjoyable beers than what Michigan's been doing for the same thing over and over all these years.
we got the Great Lakes. We got the best water in the country. Damn right.
I want to counter you, Dan, because and it's gonna
Here's the
it's gonna
debate. Get the mute
tie
button ready.
it's going to tie into one of the other topics, and that's Zymurgy, who does their yearly top breweries, top beers, which is the American Homebrewers Association. So the same people that do the World Expo of Beer, but obviously this is the homebrewers. But they go out and they name their top 10 beers and top 10 breweries in the country, and this includes, which GABF also includes, non-independent beers, but You look at their top 10, and last year I think Michigan had 6 of the top 10 beers there. They always have 2 of the top 10 breweries. So I think a lot of it has to deal with the competition itself. I agree with you that a lot of these breweries are doing well. I think we live in a world where knowledge is easily gained and you're able to start mastering and understanding. So you're not learning on the job necessarily anymore by just, oh, I wonder what happens with this. Well, probably 8 other people have done what you were doing and they've posted on whatever, beer blog, or not necessarily blog, if they're on the forums over at the Brewers Association. Like, everyone's kind of doing, helping each other out. That's one thing too with the beer industry, and we kind of felt it with Jeffries, that everyone was really in it together no matter what. So I think Michigan, I agree, we have our homerisms with what we feel is the best. We feel we have the best beer, and I think that's the same in a lot of areas that have proclaim themselves beer city or beer state, whether that's Wisconsin, Asheville, Portland, San Fran, like all these other cities. So I don't think it's just Michigan, but I agree with you that it is Michigan. But I really honestly, like, Dan, if I gave you 343, is that how many juicy IPAs? Can you name the best one?
They don't sit there and drink all 300
Oh,
plus in one sitting, and it's
I
different judges in each round. So it
I
is.
do, but if you're not, and everyone has preferences. So if I go in there and I'm a BJCP judge, which I could be, and I get tasked with IPAs, that's how a lot of these things work. Is
every
that
beer for Ken.
that all these beer, well, for how these competitions work, is it's a elimination style judging. So what'll happen is that in the first round there'll be, for it, let's say 300 to make it easy number, there'll be 300 beers, and then every table will have 2 or 3 judges, and then out of 10 beers, 1 to 2 will move forward. And then from 300, you'll have 30 to 60. From 30 to 60, you'll get down to probably 20. From 20 to 10, 10 to whatever the competition is. So you're going to have 30 sets of judges for that first round, another, 5 sets of judges for the second round, 2 for the third round, and then the final round is the 4th set of judges. And what did they drink before? Were they drinking, because they don't just do that one style. They're going to be doing double IPAs, followed by fruit beers, followed by pilsners. Yeah. I don't discredit their ability to choose great beer, just as much as I'm sure, Wren House has an amazing New England IPA. So shout out to Wren House. They did a beer over at Eastern Market with the Bruise Brothers, who has a show on here. But again, I think there's too many variables for us to put stock into this anymore.
So I mean, out of curiosity, how many, like, what kind of pour do these judges get? Is it an ounce, 2 ounce?
2 ounces, 1 to 2 ounces.
I mean,
go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
So I was gonna say, like, you look at the look at the judges themselves for a moment. Over 115 different judges at this event. If all those judges have an equal amount of beer, samples of the different beers, during the course of their judging, they're drinking 76 different beers throughout that competition. Now, are some people going to drink more than the others? Probably, but you need to be very, very impartial across the board to really truly make this, because like to Dan's point and to Ken's point, you're not gonna, in the juicy IPA category, you're not drinking all 377 entries. It's just not gonna happen.
So while you guys are still chatting, just so you know, I'm gonna start cycling through a beer judging competition, and people will be able to see photos and some insight into a more localized beer judging competition, just so you guys know. So you can keep talking.
So just, the judges need to be absolutely impartial. I have no idea what goes into judging a beer category. We go to the beer festivals, we make our comments, we laugh, haha, we go on to the next booth. That's about as far as the 4 of us and Wendy, who's not on the show tonight. That's as far as we usually go. but these judges that we have to drink at least 76 different ones if they all drink the same amount. I mean, yeah, good luck. But
and I just see like as people are probably watching it right now, I'm seeing a lot of beer and just a plate of bread in the middle. So, I mean, I guess that's a nice palate cleanser, and that kind of gives like a decent idea of what that's going to look like.
I'm sure at these competitions there's at least the one. I don't know if you remember Rocco's Modern Life, the one Transylvanian judge who gives a low score to everything.
That would be me. That would totally be nothing's good. But tell me this then: if you think you can't put stock in that, how do you explain the beers that win year after year after year after year? There's a beer out of Arizona, 4th medal in a row, come out, same beer again. I mean, if it's really you can't put a lot of stock in it, how does the same beer keep winning from year to year?
Well, I actually, and that kind of goes into my other article in a way, because I mean, I kind of wonder about this here, because as Ken has kind of pointed out about Zymurgy and their magazine and how they always go through and try to find out what is the best beer in America. And this obviously is going a little bit more of a wider scope, because this isn't just the beers that just go to Great American Beer Fest. This is supposed to be covering everything. And for the now 4th year in a row, the top beer sitting at number 1 with apparently an average, and I'm not sure if they actually just use what's on Untappd, but they had mentioned in the article that it has a 3.96 average rating out of 480,000 reviewers on Untappd, that the number 1 beer in America is Bell's Two Hearted. And it's very interesting that now this is the 4th year in a row that has been number 1. Number 2 is Russian River's Pliny the Elder, which previously was the number 1 spot holder for 7 years in a row. And it's like these beers that have just continued to be in these top 10s. And I guess just to kind of go through the top 10s, there's a lot of familiar names that are in here that have been on this list before. So Two Hearted 1, Pliny the Elder 2, Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale is 3. Number 4 is Heady Topper from The Alchemist. 5 is Hop Slam from Bell's. So Bell's has got 2. Number 6 is Zombie Dust from Three Floyds. Tied for 7th is Boulevard Tank 7 Farmhouse Ale and Founders' Kentucky Breakfast Stout. 9th is Deschutes Fresh Squeeze IPA, which is one I have not had in a long time. And number 10 is North Coast's Old Rasputin. So these beers have been, it kind of goes to that question of these beers that have continually been on that list and have been winning medals. And it makes you wonder where the competition is to knock these beers off. And 2, I guess for my own question, why are there so many damn IPAs and pale ales on this top list?
And stouts.
I mean, there's only 2.
There's only 2.
There's KBS and Old Rasputin. Those are the only stouts that are on this list. Everything else is either an IPA or just a pale ale. There's so many other styles that are out there that I feel that could come into this list. It just I'm trying to really grasp the popularity of the IPA, and I know it's been there. I know we've been doing this for years. I know that we've been having IPAs for years, but I just feel like there's other things that could be in this top 10 list that should be deserving enough to be in this list, but nothing can knock a good chunk of these IPAs out of here.
Well, what sucks, Nick, and I'll go to you in a second, but all of these beers, for the most part, you can find at Zatuna Liquor over in Rochester Hills, just south of M59 on Rochester Road.
Awesome segue.
Yeah, now you can go, Nick.
So maybe Rob, maybe one thing that might be a contributor, not saying it is the contributor, a contributor, consistency in those beers. Two Hearted, consistently made over and over and over and over again. You don't notice any changes. And I'm not talking about the double Two Hearted. I think that was, in my opinion, that was a hot mess.
Black Hearted.
Yeah,
Lighthearted.
Yeah, lighthearted. Yeah.
They made a black-hearted too.
They did. It's coming back out again.
I'm not even gonna. Yeah, whatever. But consistency. You have a two-hearted a year ago, and you fast forward to this year, you have a two-hearted this year. You're not going to find that much of a difference. As long as you like it, you're going to probably see, oh, this is just as good as it was as a year ago. So long as the place that you're buying from is doing the right thing and cleaning their lines and all that. But that's a whole different.
And I mean, I'm not saying that it's not deserving. I guess I'm just saying that I feel like there, with the amount of styles that we have and what we have available and what breweries can make, that I just feel like there's something else that can be made with that type of consistency that can get to this level. And I just want to see that happen. And I guess that's just maybe that's just a pipe dream. I don't know, but I want to see that happen. But I guess Ken, your thoughts.
Wow. I've said a lot of thoughts already, but anything on top of that, I really don't have anything else to add. I think if you like it, it's a good beer. Everyone has their own tastes, flavors, and preferences. So no matter what, whether you're a BJCP judge or not, and I met a lot of them in that slideshow I sent you, people are still taught in their ways. Like, they're stuck with what they, not BJCP, but they believe a specific beer should taste like. And when you get into beers like maybe you're adding adjuncts, like I know Matt Bush hates it when people add anything to a Kolsch, but if you have like a lime Kolsch that's amazing, does that make it a bad Kolsch, or does that make it not a true to style Kolsch?
And shout out to Eastern Market, because that is an amazing lime Kolsch that they have.
So I think there's too many variants, there's too many issues. I think we all deal with homerism. As I mentioned earlier, I think we'll all, as I will vehemently, yeah, sure, why not? Vietnamly, sure.
Vietnam, oh my God.
Good morning, Vietnamly. As much as I will fight, to promote Michigan beer, and say that it's some of the best beer, I know everyone else. If you go to Asheville and you say something like that, they're gonna look at you like you're, got two heads and six eyes.
So let me just make one comment here. Tito in the chat says, and you know what? I agree with this. So it's a good counterpoint to what I said. Consistency hasn't been true with KBS, and they are still on that list. We've had KBS countless times between the four of us, from year to year to year. There is differences in that beer. So Tito, good point. And here's another one that maybe I don't think it was on the list, but another one about consistency or lack of. Goose Island BCBS. We go to
that changes every year.
That changes every year, but
that's the thing, is that with them it changes with the adjuncts. So as with the adjuncts, the ability to have the consistency from year to year, I think, is what really affects their ability to even be on this list. Because I mean, especially if this is something where they're going off of average ratings on Untapped and sources like that, then you're talking about something that with BCBS, that they're changing it every year. There's no ability for them to gain a gross amount of ratings to even get to this level. And I think that is probably where that is that you got to have these ratings.
Oh, I don't trust Untapped ratings worth a dick.
Yeah. Well, to say, just one more comment if I can make, Ken, really quickly, then I'll stop.
That we're gonna have Goose Island on November 12th, which is a Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, there you go. Just out of curiosity, are those ratings on Untapped, the list, Rob? Are those unique ratings, or are they just total ratings? Like,
they might include the Better on Draft 1-star rating for Two Hearted.
I hope so. The quarter star rating.
And we did that for like a vanilla cherry bourbon county.
Yeah. Real quick, I was going to go through the top, what they have in here is the top 10 breweries, and then go on to the next article. But what they had in here for the top 10, actually top 11, because as most of us do not like that there was actually a tie. But tied for 10th was Firestone Walker and Stone. 9 was New Belgium. 8, The Alchemist. 7 was Deschutes. 6 was Treehouse. 5, Dogfish Head. Number 4, Founders. 3, Russian River. 2, Sierra Nevada. And number 1 was Bell's. So that was the top breweries that was based on that list. But going into another article here that I kind of wanted to, actually 2 that I want to go into. Just we'll stick to this one and then go to the fun one later.
Is it another list?
It is not another list.
Okay.
Did you have a list?
Nope.
Okay. So for this one, I saw this one today that was talking about the craft beer situation that was going on in Japan. And I know we have not talked about craft beer in Japan in a while. But obviously, much like the U.S., Japan has been having an issue with expiring beer. And if you guys remember, obviously it has been a long 2020 has been basically 15 years. But if you remember that this was supposed to be an Olympic year, and brewers were basically preparing for the demand of everyone that was coming in. But with that demand gone, and of course the sales being down about 26% according to Bloomberg, that small breweries have been needing to find a home for this beer. So one of the breweries that are out there, Kyuchi Brewery, which they launched a Save Beer Spirits campaign at its Tokyo distillery, where they're offering local bars and breweries a chance to turn their unused beer into gin. And what has been happening is that for all of these beer bars and breweries, basically they would have to send a minimum of, I believe it was something around like 20 gallons, or there was 20 barrels, 20 gallons. I have to look at that again just to make sure. I completely got that freaking wrong.
Liters.
There was meat was yeah okay, but they were supposed to send that minimum, and basically Kyuchi has been turning this beer into gin, and then turning it around and then giving the gin to the bars and breweries. And really the only thing that they have, the bars and breweries have to pay for, is just the delivery of the gin. And just like hearing about this program, there's 20 liters, that's what it is. And hearing about this program is just like really cool, because it's just like, we're going to turn this into gin and then give it back to you, and all you have to do is pay for delivery. Like, I know that we've got a few of these programs like this here, where people have, and breweries and distributors have been donating beer to distilleries to actually turn it into other liquor. But we don't. It feels like we don't have something like that, where it's just that simple, that you could just get it, send it in, get it back as gin, and all you have to pay for is delivery. Like, why don't we have more of that?
I feel, and I'm gonna cut in and just say it, that there's not a good collaboration between the different alcohol groups in the state. Our state is segregated between winemakers, distillers, and beer makers, brewers. There is no good. Now they have good rapport personally, but for instance, let's throw up a random, like a random brewery, like say Loaded Dice. Brand new brewery just started, say they couldn't open and that beer was going to go bad. Jeff over there might not have the rapport of Rusted Crow to James, Detroit City. Like, he might be able to try to sell it to these, not sell it, but try to work with these people. But coming into the industry like that is that you're a little bit new. Now, when you have someone like Dan Riley coming in and your beer is about to go under because Axel sold to Ferndale Project Eastern Market, they can go to Motor City Gas because Dan Riley's been well known within the community and be like, hey, we got beer, do you want to make it into a whiskey? Which then they made 12 Bolt. So I think there's not a lot of cross collaboration, cross talk. And I think just as much as breweries are worried about making ends meet, I think distilleries were there too, making sure, especially if they were a tap house distillery and they relied on tap house sales. We just don't have that internal collaboration between all of it. And I think it was Nick the brewer that wanted to try to start a guild of fermented production. Basically, all fermented products go into this guild. I don't think it went anywhere because I think by the time he was trying to start it, COVID. But again, like you don't have it to where you can make these or talk to Youngblood Winery and try to do something over there with whatever their production can hold because maybe they have open hardware that you could make something over there, you could do something over there. But then of course on top of all that are the laws in the MLCC and the issues. Like we were not prepared, and there's only so much that we could do to get pushed. And we don't have a collaborative guild to push for those laws. And unless you have more Pauline Wenzels out there, who are going to push for more than just beer laws, nothing is going to change, and we're not going to see that here in the States. Sorry, soapbox, my bad. But I feel like I covered everything. I feel like
You did.
there's just so many. It's so blatantly obvious, but we are so set in our ways in Michigan that we cannot get past it because and it's not like being able to send my beer over to Detroit City Distillery is the biggest problem Michigan has. I still feel like we have some roads we need to fix.
It's been about 4 years or 2 years.
Not even two.
The rent is too damn high.
Dan, any thoughts from Arizona?
No, sorry, Nick caught me off guard with the rent is too damn high. But no, it's great if this sort of thing can happen. I've never heard of it happening before. Have you guys heard anything of this happening outside of Japan? Because that's the first I've ever heard it. I didn't even know you could turn beer into gin, which is pretty interesting.
We've had some distributors that have donated beer, and have sent that to distilleries, and then distilleries that basically have used it, and because basically when you use beer, that pretty much bypasses most of the mash and fermentation process and just jumps straight into distillation. But they basically have just taken the beer and, for all that I know, have basically just turned it into some form of spirit and then have just sold it off their own. I don't know if they've turned around and have provided any type of monetary donation to the distributors or the breweries for said beer. But that's basically from what I've seen is that there's been some breweries that are out there, not necessarily just here in Michigan, but just breweries that are nationwide that have done such a donation to a distillery to do that.
I feel in Michigan what would be beneficial, and which is why we started the Michigan Brewery Map app, which is going to launch on 1/1/2021, but you can sign up for the beta if you go to mibeermap.com. A lot of these places, people want spirits. People want non-beer products. And if you could send your beer, if you're a small, and we'll use loaded dice again. Fuck, this is going to be perfect. If I'm Jeff over there, and maybe my beer is not the perfect way that I want to sell it as beer, but if I could distill it, it'd be good. And I could ship it off and pay Detroit City Distillery to distill it and then ship it back to me. That would be amazing. And now Jeff has product to where if that works well, that he could start brewing beer just to distill, just to sell on his site.
Right.
In the end, everything involves laws, and we have too many strict laws. And we don't have I know we don't talk politics here, but I'm pretty sure everyone in every state that's listening to this is going to say the exact same thing. We don't have the inept government that wants to do it. Or
Right.
we have an inept government that does not want to. Whatever, you guys
Makes
know what I'm
more
saying.
sense.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea of the output, which it's very small output, but basically they're saying that for every 100 liters of beer, Kyuchi is able to produce 8 liters of gin. So you're talking like a lot of beer for not a whole lot of gin. But that's just, I guess, the way it is. But going into the last one that we have here,
I want to add one more thing. Go check out
okay.
the Tenacity episode of Better on Draft.
Oh,
who brought
Yes.
in a lot of distilled beers into our studio to talk about it. They talked about the process and everything. That is the Tenacity, Tenacity episode of Better on Draft. Definitely go check that out, and you'll hear a lot more about that subject so you could understand a little bit more of the process and how it actually works. Sorry, Rob, continue.
No worries. So I guess last one, happy birthday to Breckenridge Brewery. Breckenridge, which is a Colorado-based brewery, has hit the Dirty 30 this year. But as you know, advertising commercials would say, it's our birthday, but we're bringing the savings to you. In this case, the party to you. The company has decided to run a promo from now through December 31st that is allowing anyone turning the age of 30 in 2020 to get a free-ish 12-pack of beer. I say free-ish because there are some conditions to this. It's an online rebate. You know, for some of us who used to buy things and have the online rebate, you remember you got to save that receipt. But it is an online rebate where you have to submit the receipt with the purchase of their 30th anniversary throwback pack, which is a 12-pack featuring 3 of their legacy beers and then another one of their originals that has a little bit of a citrus twist to it. Now, the rebate does come in the form of a prepaid cash card that can be used anywhere within 6 months, and the discount is valued basically at the price of a 12-pack. So for anybody who's out there who was born in 1990, first, use a damn baby, and fuck y'all, because you're too damn young, but not young enough to rent a car, so good for you. And 2, if you want to get you some Breckenridge or you're a Breckenridge fan, go definitely check them out because obviously Breckenridge does distribute pretty much nationwide. So it is definitely out there. I know they distribute here in Michigan, and I know there are a lot of different places across the U.S. So if you are definitely down with getting some Breckenridge, go for that. And you still a young damn baby.
God damn.
Wow.
So speaking of laws, this is obviously an American law where you can't give away free beer. So whenever someone says like, "Oh, we're gonna give away Busch Light to this person for a year," what they're doing is they're giving you a MasterCard gift card, and the whole point is for you to buy beer with that gift card based on the price of beer near you and what they're saying. So if they're saying, "Oh, you get a 30-pack of Busch Light per year," I know it's then they're gonna say, "All right, a 30-pack costs this much, so this is how much money you're getting on your MasterCard per year or per month or whatever you say." So I think there's, it's another thing that I think archaic that we can come back to as Americans and create better laws of distribution. Obviously, Miller and whoever else might fight it, but yeah, you're all babies. 30 years old in 2020.
30. I just pretty much had a damn birthday as it is. I'm old.
Anyways,
Okay. Oh my gosh.
man, I'm gonna have to go out and get a fake ID so I can get this free beer. I gotta figure that out.
Look at that. We have to turn around and get a fake ID to say that we're younger
Yeah.
to get free beer.
All of a sudden, I've got 15 of these prepaid debit cards.
There is I remember seeing it in the news where a kid was shopping at Micro Center and buying like the things that were 90% off with the rebates, selling them back on eBay. And then when he was paying off his student loans or whatever, he'd have to turn in these prepaid credit cards, and so he'd have to type each and every one, like one's $12, one's $7.99, one's $42. So he'd have to go through all this. Guys, Better on Draft 240, the news segment in the books. We're gonna end this segment now. So if you're on the podcast, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We hope you like this 2-segment podcast where it's a little bit different. You're not kind of bombarded with a lot of information, and you're not worried about an hour and a half, 2-hour long podcast. We're gonna break it up, make your lives a little bit easier. So hopefully this you guys like it a little more. Please tell us. Give us a text message, not text message, a Facebook.
Send us a telegram.
Yeah,
something like that.
A Western Union us a
Yeah,
telegram.
Exactly. So we're gonna cut it right here. I'm gonna finish with a tagline, but we're gonna stay on Facebook Live on BetterOnDraft.tv for another 5 minutes because we're gonna play King of the Hill with you guys. Because I want to kind of end everything on a high note. I always want to end it on a high note of me testing your guys' knowledge. I hope that you practiced this time. If not, it's gonna be another terrible game. But no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Peace.